Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. I do hope everyone is well and getting the results they want with their teams. I'm your host, Matthew Haddock, and today we're going to go through selling. Now, please don't fall asleep. This is not going to be around the sales dynamics, how to close a deal. It's around selling an idea as a leader. I'm going to look at the do's and the don'ts. I'm also going to look at when you are not their boss, so they don't directly report to you. How does that dotted line selling? Getting buy-in is a core leadership skill. Whether you're driving change, launching a new project, improving a process, you often need people on board with you and without having that authority over them. So you need to be influence, not use power. And that makes it different. And it also makes it work. Now, I know the guys and girls who've listened to this show that I'm all about persuasion and getting things done. And I also talked a lot about decision makers need to make decisions and take accountability. But in this episode, I want to go through those do's and don'ts about how you can sell an idea. Now, that's not selling something like a snake oil salesman. These are selling things that you need to deliver as a team. And it's making sure that you get the right engagement and the right enthusiasm that when you're not around, when you're not in the building or you're not online, things are still getting done. And that's the idea of selling the idea. The starting with that why. So let's start and fly into the 5 do's of effective leadership when it comes to selling. What you got to do, and it's going to come as no surprise, is you've got to build trust first. People will follow leaders they believe in. They don't follow job titles. So you've got to be able to show credibility. Share your experiences, your reasoning, your data. We spoke a lot about data on this show. So you've got to be credible. You've got to build that trust. So it's difficult for a new manager coming in when they've got to do this because you haven't built the trust, and it does take time to build trust. Some people are trusting very quickly. Others will take time. Some are very cynical around it. I've worked in some places where people are extremely cynical, especially if you're new. So you've got to be able to build that credibility, show them that you're doing the right thing for them. And be consistent when it comes to those things. So when you're building this trust, they want to see reliability in your leader. They want to see that you are visual and you understand the process before you jump down there, especially if you're making decisions further down or you're selling an idea that might be against the grain of the company, the culture of the company. So first thing to do when you want to influence as a leader is to build trust. And of course, building trust is all around one-to-ones, engaging, and guess what? Being a person, not an AI robot. Just to point out, this is not an AI robot show, just in case you're wondering. Number 2 on my do's list is understand their reality. Now, think about that. Before you are going to sell an idea, you need to understand the pressures that the persons are under, the workload that they may be in, the pain points of the team. So you're coming in with this new idea. And of course, they're going to say, we're too busy for that. We're too busy. We're already under so much pressure. There's no chance we can change. The workload's too high. And what you will see is, even though you might have the best idea in the world, you might be the person who can magically sort out their problems. Very rare. But you might have this great way of doing something. You've seen it somewhere else. You're new to the business. Or you've just been on a great management course. Or you've listened to a great podcast. And you thought, wow, this could make a difference in our business. But all I'm going to say is we're too busy. Prime example of this is when you can see they need some help. They need people in there. Leaders are really bad at this. They need someone to take some pressure off, but they can't delegate it right because they're too busy. They're under the pressure, the workloads. There's loads of pain points in the team. So what do? They carry on, they work harder, do longer hours, try to extend their day. And of course, that doesn't work in the long run. They come burnt out. So how do you do this? How do you understand their reality? Well, of course, get in the trenches is the most important thing you can do. Ask questions. Good questions are questions that really challenge their reality. Not in an aggressive way. This is challenging to get better, to get them to understand that your idea that you're selling is going to move their dial in a positive way. Listen. more than you speak. And that is difficult these days to get a word in with some people, but you've got to listen to what people are saying. Not just to answer, not just to talk next, but listen more than you speak. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Think of it that way around. And of course, make sure that when you're understanding their realities, you're tailoring your message to what matters to them. What is the thing that will help them? Not about you. You can't sell a message that goes, oh, if you do this, it's going to make my job 10 times easier. I'm going to have to do hardly anything and I can go home at dinner time. And then those other guys are going to, well, what's in it for me? It's a prime thing inside humans, what's in it for me? So understand their reality, ask those good questions, listen, and then tailor your message. Number 3 on the do's to be an effective leader when it comes to selling is show them the why. Clearly show them the why. Teams buy into a purpose before a process. So people will buy into a process of going somewhere, knowing where they are going, knowing the why. Explain the importance of whatever that may be. If it's around, let's take some of the real basics of a business. If it's around the safety of the product or the person, you explain the why. You explain why their part in this is important and why the idea you're selling will improve it. If it's around the quality of the product, explain the why. Explain how you are going to improve the quality of that product with this idea, which will drive more sales, which will give them more revenue to the company and more job security. If it's around time efficiency, explain the why. Why is it going to save them time? Or effectively, is it going to save their efficiency? And be careful that this why doesn't say that they're going to have no job at the end. Because, as we say, turkeys don't vote for Christmas. And if it's about efficiency, explain why this efficiency is going to matter to them. And then link the idea to the team's goals. So what are the goals? If that's personal goals or team goals, if it's KPIs, look at that. Or is it to reduce the frustration? Those whys are going to be the things that are going to get people to engage and really go with the idea. And make sure the benefits are tangible and relevant. Something that changes something in head office, which they don't really care about. It's something you have to do because we've been told we've got to do. It's mandatory. They're just not enthusiastic. If you're explaining a new process, I've had something that we had to do a certain thing in a business and it didn't seem to make any sense. It just seemed to add more time, more effort, made it difficult for people. Now there's a change element in that because when change comes, people don't like the change. But by me as a leader then explaining the why, we have had this issue on other sites. It means from now on we are having to do this because it will make it a safer product and therefore the business has bought into the fact that this is the way we go and we need to know that this is going to be the safest products. We do not want to injure or, God forbid, kill anyone. And there's a really strong why. So show the why clearly, explain it to them, link it to the team's goals and make sure they understand the benefit and the tangibility of it. Now, 4th on the do's is to share the problem. If you are creating a solution yourself, then you're always going to be your solution if you co-create the solution. So instead of saying, here's what we need to do, say, here's the challenge. What's the best way we can solve it together? Because that gets the idea, even though it might be your idea, and even though at the end, the idea that you have come up with, 90% of it's going to be still there. It's a really important thing to get those guys to co-create. And you know something? I've had some great ideas. I thought were great ideas. When I've thrown it out and made people part of the creative solution, you know what? My idea was nowhere near as good as the ones that they came up with. People commit more when they've helped shape the idea. So get in there, get people to really understand the challenge and how do they create the solution. Make sure you don't allow it to go down the route of, if we just spent on this, that's an easy one. Or if so-and-so did this better, that's just throwing it out. That's throwing it somewhere else. Ask them what they can do. How can we as a team create a solution for this problem? And that means your idea will be sold a lot better, especially if it's not on your direct reports. It's in different departments. They're not wanting to change because it doesn't really affect them or they don't think it affects them. Of course, back to point 3, understand the why. But share that problem, co-create the solution, much better. Number 5 on the list is the idea of early champions. If you can use early champions, find someone, 1 or 2, who are real supporters of this value. Involve them earlier. Don't make it a club. but let them, we can test it out, can refine the idea with those champions. The champions will be not them, the managers, that they're going to be the us, they're going to be part of that team, which is a lot. And we always think, them and us is going to go. Well, it's always been around since I've been around. It's probably been around since the start of time, and it's probably going to be around for a long time after I've gone. So looking at champions, looking at people who can advocate for it, they're supporting and they will get buy-in a lot easier with the wider team. So look for those early champions. Number 6 on this list is communicate it simply. And in practical terms, don't confuse it with rhetoric or overcomplicate it. Keep it relevant and, keep it simple. You've heard that before. What changes is that the people want to understand that change that's coming, the why of it, that it's not just come from an expert idea. It's not just come from a university textbook. Avoid the jargon, avoid those over-technical explanations, because sometimes the people won't buy in. Now, of course, you've got to read the room. If you've got a load of brain doctors and rocket scientists, then, they're probably going to be into that kind of thing. But don't overcomplicate it. Make sure it's at the audience level. Communicate it simply and make sure that the teams understand it. And the last on the do's, number 7, look for the quick wins. Demonstrate early progress on this idea. Look for those visible successes that can build confidence, that creates momentum, that gets people interested and understand what you are doing. And of course, all important, gets the idea sold to the people at the right time and process. So those are the do's, 7 of them there. Let's look at the don'ts. What leaders should avoid. What should you avoid? Now, a lot of them are going to cross over with the do's, but let's have a look. Don't rely on your authority. As I said at the beginning, you are managing a lot of dotted lines these days. There's a lot of business partners, so you can't just say, go and do it. We need to do this. It's going to fail because a team isn't going to be yours. You're not going to influence them. You're going to be beaten by hierarchy every time, because guess what? When you go into a room, non-directs, and even direct sometimes, and you start to say, we are going to do this, first thing they're going to do is go straight to the boss and go, do you know what that guy said we're going to do? And of course, then they're in tribalism. What? We're not going to do that. No, who's told you that nonsense? I'm going to sort this out. He becomes a hero with his team. So don't rely on the authority, especially when you don't have it. Even with your own team, as we said in the do's, getting them on board and getting the why is a lot easier than just telling them what to do. Don't ignore people's concerns and pushbacks. It's very easy when you think you know the answer, and there's so many rabbit holes of that in there, and that there's a solution, or you think they know, that you ignore people's concerns. Oh, it's just them, they don't like change. Or when people give you a real genuine resistance to it, and you go, oh, that's just them, that's just Bob, that's just Jane, oh, they're just being funny. You are then belittling their pushback, but actually in there, there might be personal stuff, there probably is, but there's good nuggets of real reasons why that didn't work. I've been on the other side. Big change came in. Company took over the company I was working with. They wanted to change a lot of stuff. I told them from the start it wasn't going to work. I looked like I was the awkward one. I looked like the one who was just ignoring it, didn't like change, was pushing back. Actually, I was right at the end, because when they took on board what I was saying and they made some changes, I'd left the company by then, but hey, that's a different podcast. So look for those resistance to people. If you're using data, it's a lot cleaner, it's easier, but avoid brushing off the worries. Instead of just digging in and going, nope, this is the way, go back to that point. You're involving people in the solution. So don't ignore concerns or pushbacks. Number 3, don't oversell or overpromise. Politically, we all do it, don't they? Politicians are always over-promising, we're never going to cut this, we're never going to do that. And then they have to when the reality comes in and they look like the liars. So as a manager, don't oversell it. Don't tell them it's going to fix every problem, because it won't. Don't overpromise. People will lose trust fast if you guarantee an unrealistic result. Be honest about the risks and the challenges and what support is needed, and that will help you not overpromise and oversell. Number 4, don't dump work on others. Come on now. Where have you been on this one before? This is a great idea, but it's going to give you a load of work. Well, it's not a great idea for me then. If the team thinks it's adding tasks without getting any value, you're going to lose them. Show them the idea, of course, can reduce their pain. That's what you try to do. You're going to improve their outcomes. You're going to solve their problems. So don't work on them. Don't push it down. And this can be done a lot where, especially if it's interdepartment, that you think, oh, X should be doing it, so the technical department should do that, which has been an operations function. It just looks like you're you're getting rid of your work. It just looks like you're pushing it down to someone else. And of course, you're going to get such fight back because the technical department are already loaded with their work. How can they take on your work? Gets very messy. So be careful of that one. And of course, when it comes to people and understanding it, if they've understood the why as a group and as a team, all of them, it's a lot easier to sell that. Don't sort of disappear after the pitch. So, you don't go at the front of a stage, make this big speech about why this idea is great, and then just go. You've got to stay engaged. You can't just disappear. Be present, follow up, support the rollout, get a good communication plan. That's a real good one to do, and stick to it. Get people involved, because if you're just going to come in, make a statement and disappear, well, it's not happening, is it? A lot of this one isn't, you haven't got the position power. So within a few months, you think, oh, that's all sorted. You come back, nothing's changed. You've got to stay engaged. You've got to not just disappear after the pitch. So make sure that you are there for the long run. Make sure you're going through all the stages of the project. So don't do a leader flip and get out of the way. Number 6 on my list is don't take credit alone. You might have thought this idea. You may be the cleverest person in the room, and well done to you. I'm not. I know that. But don't take all the credit. Share the wins, recognise a contribution, and highlight the team's involvement. Because that is where the next project comes along, they're going to be bought in because they know you're not a person who's come in and taken all the credit and then done one. It is joint success. It builds long-term partnerships and influences. So think of that when you're going into those don'ts. So don'ts. So just a quick recap on the do's and don'ts. Do's is, make sure you build that trust first. Make sure you understand people's reality. Show them the why. Share the problem and co-create a solution. Get some early champions. Make the communication simple and get some quick wins. When it comes to don'ts, don't rely on your authority because it's not there. Don't ignore people's pushback and concerns. Don't oversell or overpromise. Don't dump work on others, especially because they won't like it. Don't disappear because you need to be around, and don't take the credit. Just to wrapping up what we've done today. So when it comes to selling an idea, when you are a leader of authority, there's lots of things you can do. But selling an idea without really understanding people is very difficult. You've got to understand the people. It comes down to things like credibility, empathy, clarity, and collaboration. When teams see that you understand their world, respect their expertise, and genuinely want to make things better, they will follow you. Not because they have to, but because they really want to. That is the real crux of this, is people will go and follow an idea. They're not there just to stick to what's been going on. They've been conditioned to that. But you can change that by showing them a better way, better process, and a better future. Now, I'm always up for feedback, as you know, so if you'd like to drop me a line or send me a message, get me on LinkedIn. Matthew Haddock's the name. I'd love to hear anything around the show, new ideas for the show, new perspectives on how you could sell an idea. So I'm trying to sell you to give me some feedback. You can send it to managermattpodcast@gmail.com. You know that I will read everything you've sent, and if you send me some great questions, I'll build a show specifically for you. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful, and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.